be over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL season, we've got a good one that is going to kick off the festivities tomorrow night. We'll touch base on that big battle of the NFC West there when the Rams and the 49ers get ready to do battle. But we also have plenty of college football news, stories, headlines, bowl games, national championship. We've got playoffs that we've got to get into as we are just about, 9 days away from the very first college football 12-team playoff. And as we get ready for that and Army-Navy this weekend, not to mention a handful of bowl games that'll be here starting next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Well, we just learned that North Carolina has found themselves a new head coach there to lead that program as Mac Brown has moved aside, and they have gone with somebody younger. No, not younger, older, sorry. How does Bill Belichick sound as your new coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels football program? Because he is it here, folks. Sources are reporting all over the place that the six-time Super Bowl champion head coach, who, by the way, has never coached at the collegiate level in any way, shape, or form, well, he's going to be taking over the head coaching spot at North Carolina. Belichick is being reported to have agreed to a 3-year, $30 million deal. And Mac Brown, just to give you an idea, was paid about $5 million per season. So this will be a bump up in that head coaching job. Now, listen, we have heard about Belichick interviewing for this job and the idea that he would want to not see what was available to him in the NFL market, but rather take a job in the college ranks, which, again, I will mention, he has never in any way, shape, or form coached in the college ranks, much less coach in a new era of college football, one that involves NIL money and everything else. So it'll be interesting to see here. That is kind of what we're hearing here now. Mac Brown, who, by the way, was 73 years old as he just retired. It was 6 seasons in his second stint with North Carolina, I believe. He was the only FBS coach to be older than 70 who was employed in the head coaching ranks in college football. Belichick, who is now 8 months younger, well, this will be, he will now enter as the single oldest coach in college football. Now, what does that mean for North Carolina football? Well, good luck. This is going to be interesting to see how he transitions to modern college football in the world of, again, recruiting, NIL money, staff building, losing guys to other jobs around college football. Many people believe college football is an absolute disaster, and it's only going to get worse. But the idea that he is willing to dip his toe into the North Carolina ranks into college football makes, well, all of a sudden, forget about North Carolina basketball, which is a hot mess. Now, North Carolina football is going to be maybe the talked about sport in that town. Keep in mind now, his son, Steve Belichick, spent the entire season as defensive coordinator at Washington. And of course, the rumor was, and this is maybe coming to fruition, was the idea that his son will have a substantial role in this program and be a part of, obviously, his father's staff. Also, with a 3-year deal at 72 years old, maybe, just maybe, the whole idea of this was to maybe spend a couple of years coaching with his son and then ultimately convincing the Board of Regents to just let him hand the reins over to his son, Steve Belichick, who, for the most part, all indications are he's a pretty good defensive coordinator, good football guy. He certainly has the lineage and all the people to have looked up to growing up around football. We'll see what happens here. I mean, my goodness, you're keeping in mind now in 3 years, or actually in a 6-year stint under Brown, included 17 wins during the 22-23 season. And he will now, well, 113 victories is the record for North Carolina head coaching under Brown. Will Belichick be able to be around long enough to pass that number? And what is the ceiling for North Carolina football? Time will only tell how Belichick does and how this program recruits and how it all shakes out in the transfer portal. But one thing we know for sure, welcome to college football. Bill Belichick will certainly be garnering a whole lot of headlines and a whole lot of press coverage for North Carolina football. Also, we now know the winter meetings taking place in Major League Baseball. It's been a heck of a run for Major League Baseball as the dominoes have been falling. We learned a couple of days ago that Juan Soto would be signing the richest deal in professional sports history as he signs with the New York Mets. We learned, of course, yesterday that the Yankees countered back by signing Max Fried off the Atlanta Braves as he was a free agent. Yankees threw a whole bunch of money at him. Well, one of the other big prized pitchers that were not necessarily free agents, but Garrett Crochet of the White Sox, young fireballer there, knew the White Sox have been trying to shop him for a while. We thought he would have been traded before the deadline last year, but that did not happen. Instead, well, he is now going to be wearing a Red Sox uniform by getting the lefty who throws triple digits. So Crochet switching from the White Sox to the Red Sox, and this is by far in an early start of the winter meetings, but obviously one of the biggest trades of the Major League Baseball offseason to begin with. So the Red Sox trying to retool that organization, have a number one pitcher and it's not Bello, who they can actually build around here. And kudos for them, because he is going to want to sign a long-term deal, and he is going to want some money, and he's well-deserved of it. In the meantime, the White Sox, I mean, what can you say about them? This is a team that has had a couple of nice pieces on that team a year ago, but they are poised to completely start over, start building a bunch of assets, try to build up the farm system, and give it a go. But Crochet a Red Sox now, Fried a Yankee, and just like that, pitching in the American League East has just changed the landscape. So that should be fun to see what other dominoes are going to drop here. We have got, though, plenty of college basketball. We got day 2 of the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. Much more to get to here. We're just getting started. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
Lincoln!
But he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday now, December the 11th, as we're getting ready for an interesting time here in college football, as the breaking story was that Bill Belichick back in the coaching ranks, heading to North Carolina to be their new head coach. Boy, that's going to make things very interesting. We also have a whole lot of college basketball, some mid-majors and some of those games coming up here tonight. We'll talk about a little bit later, but we did want to cover a couple of games around night 2 of the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup, as Oklahoma City certainly staked their claim to being maybe the team to beat here. Mark Zinno saw that last night, and he's getting ready for two of his favorites here. His Atlanta Hawks getting ready to take on his New York Knicks. That's coming up at the top of the hour. Winner advancing there, Mark. And I'm seeing a whole lot of love for the Knicks. I'm not seeing a whole lot of love for the Atlanta Hawks, even though they've been playing their best basketball as of late. So what are we going to get with this at the Garden here tonight?
Well, I'm not interested in laying 8 points with the Knicks. As much as I think they are a good team and, maybe the third best team in the East at this point in time, I'm just not interested in laying that number. But I have told people all season long, you can always take the Hawks' opponent's team total over and feel pretty comfortable about doing so. They're just not a very good defensive team. Knicks is about 122.5, somewhere in that range. It might be up to 123 right now with this thing getting to 8. But regardless, the Hawks give up 120 to pretty much everybody. And the Knicks are now an offensive team. Tom Thibodeau's team went from the defensive, stalwarts of the NBA to this offensive juggernaut that seems to score 130 every night. So this is not a Hawks team that's built to stop them. The other thing I looked at in this game, Joe, was Trae Young's over his points total. I got it earlier this morning at 20.5. It might be up to 21.5 now. I know it's a different Trae Young than what we've seen in years past. He's more of a facilitator. He's more of a true point guard now with what he's running in Atlanta, but he loves playing at the Garden. In that playoff series a couple of years back, he scored at least 30 in all 3 games at MSG. The Hawks win that series in 5. Except for his rookie year, he's averaged 27.6 points per game at Madison Square Garden, including 2 40-point games at MSG. So this is a building he's familiar with. Remember when he shushed the crowd during that playoff series? The Boo Birds are going to be out for the New York fans, and Trae sort of feeds off of that a little bit. And so I think there's a world where Trae goes up and over, knowing that he wants to, continue to stick it back to the Knicks fans. He should have a pretty big night offensively.
Yeah, it's wondering, what do we do with this game? Because we know defense isn't the forte of Atlanta, but we also know that the Knicks are really being carried by their offense because they're just not the same Thibodeau defense team that we've seen in years past. So the number is pretty high, but it's high for a reason. It feels like this could be a all-out fun one. Let's just see. First one to what? 125 wins?
I mean, it's setting up for a speed game where a lot of points are scored. And, I don't know how Thibodeau is living with this Knicks defense, giving up 115, 120 to everybody, because they were hard to get 100 on last year. So the pivot that they've done is pretty dramatic, given it's 1 year. It wasn't a gradual turn. It was and maybe it's all Karl Anthony Towns who's now in the fold and Julius Randle gone, and the way things have changed. So I think they've sort of embraced it. Brunson is now continuing to lead an offense that has a lot more scorers on it, a lot more shooters. That's badly what the Knicks needed, and they get some healthy guys back in Princess Achua, and now you also have, again, you have OG Anunoby back healthy. I mean, these are guys that are shooters that help this team score. So they're leaning into what they do well and not running from it. But, yeah, it could be a very up-and-down, high-scoring game. I don't doubt it.
Are you thinking you like Trae Young to get his here tonight? He'll be the catalyst there for Atlanta. With this total being as high as it is, you like maybe a team total as well in this one?
Yeah, Knicks team total over. Again, I don't think the Hawks can stop the Knicks from getting to 120. I mean, we're at 122.5, 123 in that range. Are we talking about a bucket one way or another that could change, a ticket from a winner to a loser? Probably. But, the Knicks can score 125 on this team. So I put it this way. If the Knicks aren't at 120, I question whether they're actually going to win this game. Right? They have got to be, volume-wise. I mean, they're certainly not covering 8.5 without getting to 120. Their defense is good, but it ain't keeping them below 100 good while they score 115. It's not going to be, 112 to 101 here. That's not the final. So, if the Knicks don't get to at least 120, they're not covering this number.
So the winner of this game heads out to Vegas there. We'll take on the Milwaukee Bucks, who handled business against Orlando last night. It'll be interesting to see which one of these teams advances there. We also have the quarterfinal coming up on the West Coast between Houston and Golden State. Can we trust this Houston team to win a game like this at this point?
Well, I do. I mean, there's a lot of kind of situational things at play here. Number one, this is a young Houston team that still has something to prove against a Golden State team of veterans who have 4 titles, who could really give a rip less whether they win the NBA Cup, other than the fact that the winning team, each player gets $500,000. That's the only thing motivating the Golden State Warriors at this point in time. So if the Golden State Warriors lose this game, guess what? They'll lose absolutely no sleep about it whatsoever. But the Houston Rockets still have something to prove. They've lost the first 2 games to Golden State. The first one in overtime at home. The second one in a 99-93 final. That was a 3-point game with 30 seconds left in Golden State. And so, this is one of these prove-it moments for a young team like Houston. Obviously, the fans in Houston are going to be jacked up because it's Golden State. They're going to want to win this thing. They're going to want to show the world that they can hang with Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. And I think they come out and try to prove it tonight. Look, and the Houston Rockets offense matches their elite level defense at home. Not so much on the road, but at home. And so I think you get the best effort you're going to get to this point in the season from the Houston Rockets to win this thing tonight. Because again, for all those young guys, if they win this NBA Cup, that $500,000 may be more than their entire salary for the year for some of these guys. So that's a young team with a lot of motivation to go out and win this thing.
We saw it last year with Indiana, right? That experience in this helped them actually make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Is Houston this year's maybe dark horse?
It wouldn't surprise me. Again, they've got to prove that they can do it on the road. Indiana's offense didn't take a break on the road, right? Like that's what, and Houston's defense doesn't take a break on the road, but their offense does. Like they're just not the same team offensively, so it's hard to back them in that spot.
All right, we got more to talk with Mark Zinno. We'll touch base in the NFL next here on Game Time Decisions.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Wednesday to you. Mark Zinno in for round 2 here on this Wednesday as we get ready, Zinno, for the NFL Week 15. Put up a shut-up time, and what a good one we got to kick it all off tomorrow night there between the Rams and the 49ers. And I'm just wondering what we got from the 49ers last week. That's kind of what we thought we were going to get more of this year. The injuries have really stacked up against them, but boy, oh boy, if they can bring that level of execution to this Rams game, even on a short week, I mean, they can't lose any more games if they're going to make a run at the playoffs, right?
No, they have to win out. And look, this has been a Rams team and a Sean McVay team that's really had the number of the 49ers over the years, going back to, the beginning of the 2019 season. You're talking about, including the one earlier this year where, the Rams won a game. This is just a one-sided series all the way in favor of the 49ers, who had won 7 or 8 straight or 9 of 10 prior to the first meeting this year. So, look, I mean, Shanahan has to do something here that's sort of miraculous and special with the mass unit that he has. Even Isaac Guerrero, who came in last week and had a great game on the ground and had 2 touchdowns, guess what? He's hurt. They're down to like their 5th-string running back at this point in time. Nick Bosa is still a question mark. We don't know if he's going to play. Trent Williams is out. They have so many, Dre Greenlaw is on, the physically unable to perform list, possibly to return. They have to figure out something and a way to do this. This Rams team that got a win last week over Buffalo maybe set up for a little bit of a letdown spot going on the road on a short week. It's just a question of whether the 49ers offense could take advantage. I don't think the Niners defense, despite the fact that they do have some injuries, has played all that poorly. Their offense just hasn't had that same sense of urgency, and they haven't been taking care of the football. And, maybe Debo will get the ball this week. He was a squeaky wheel. He was starting to complain about targets. And if they can get him the ball and they can start to make some way, I think they have a shot to make this thing competitive. It's kind of surprising to still see them laying points as a favorite.
Yeah, it is. It's put up or shut up time. I'm looking forward to watching it and seeing if Stafford can keep playing the way he's been playing, which has been over the top for them. What about talk about playing well? How about the Seahawks after that bye week coming out? Defense seems to have figured it out. Geno is not killing them. They got a couple. I mean, the running back was out last week, and Charbonneau comes in there and just destroys everybody. So, what do you think of the Packers' chances against Seattle this week?
Seattle killed me last week because Arizona was supposed to win that game at home, and they did not. That was bad. Arizona had played awful offensively again against pretty shoddy defense. And what is it with Kyler Murray not throwing the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr.? Like, that's a weird thing that Arizona's doing. Like, just get number 18 the ball. This isn't difficult. Anyway, back to this week. I don't know that the Seahawks are that good. I don't know if they're as good as their 8-5 record says they are. I mean, somehow if the Seahawks pull this off, they'll have the same 9-5 record as the Packers, because those two teams don't seem like they're in the same category when you power rate them, right? Can Green Bay's defense check Seattle for a full 60 minutes here? I think is really what this boils down to. Green Bay has the run game. Green Bay has, the better quarterback, which isn't really saying much because it's Geno Smith. I don't think it's a high bar to clear. But this should be a game where Green Bay can dominate. Believe it or not, Seattle, some of their offensive numbers are actually worse at home than they are on the road, which was a little bit strange. But I think this all boils down to the Packers defense creating some turnovers. They're one of the more opportunistic defenses in the league. They're top 3 in turnovers forced this year and takeaways. So if they do that to Seattle and they get pressure, because that's the thing with Geno Smith. He's one of the worst quarterbacks under center, under pressure this year when it comes to QBR. If they can get him to make some mistakes, the Packers will have a lot of momentum in this game. Should be able to steal a win and a cover.
What do you think of your Atlanta Falcons and Cousins, and what is going on? I mean, they should have no problem beating the Raiders, right?
They should. I mean, look, this is a desperate team right now. And when I say desperate team, I mean wildly desperate team. Here's how the funny part is, here's how this sets up. They've lost 4 in a row. Kirk Cousins has 0 touchdowns and I think 10 interceptions in the last 4 games. And they've fallen out of first place after a 6-3 start and 4-0 in the division. They are now in danger of losing this division to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You want to watch Arthur Blank's head split in 2? Watch his former quarterback, Desmond Ridder, who's going to get the start this week because looks like Aiden O'Connell might not play. Watch his former quarterback throw for 300 yards on this defense and beat them. You will literally see every Home Depot crumble to the ground by the end of Monday night.
Sports Talk Radio will be certainly interesting in Atlanta if that happens there. Mark Zeno, enjoy the games. Chris Thurston, Kenny White next on the Grid.
actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a challenge. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill, then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on a Wednesday. Looks like we put the band back together here. A couple of road trips here for one. CT Betts, Chris Thurston, and the Wizard, Kenny White. But we managed to find them, and now they are back with us here because we've got college football as well as some NFL to talk about here. And we'll start guys, with the Navy-Army game, not a bowl game. Feels like this should be a bowl game, but it is always a fun one here with Navy and Army. And CT, I'll start with you, my man. Boy, this total seems kind of low for two teams that averaged 32 points a game this year. But, boy, 6.5 for Army. Are they good enough to cover this number?
I don't think they are, Joe. I think that this is a little too high here. And, Army, obviously, they won their first ever conference championship last week, and Daly runs nuts. And Navy, they got some rest, right? And it was much needed because their trigger man, Blake Horvath, he's been banged up, battling some injuries. But their last game against ECU, Braxton Woodson, he came in and he ran wild himself. I think he had 3 touchdowns, and he looks pretty good under center. And Joe, both teams are very well coached, but I give the edge to the Cadets and Jeff Monken. There's some rumors out there that he's been kind of sniffing around and looking to maybe leave and going on some interviews. That could rub some players the wrong way, although, both these military schools obviously get up for this one. But I do think this is a little too high here. So I played a little bit of Navy +7 when it touched it there for a second on Monday. I still like 6.5 here where it's at right now. I think Navy's very live to win this game here. So whether it's Horvath or Woodson, we're going to be on the midshipman here.
Yeah, Kenny, it's funny. We talked to some of the guys in the risk room earlier today, and man, they're like, we got a lot of two-way action, but on the total, because nobody can seem to agree if we're getting points or we're not getting points here. But the one thing everyone agrees upon, I guess, is less than a touchdown for Army. How do you see it going down?
Yeah, well, Joe, CT hit a couple points that I like. One is that Army played in the conference championship game last week versus Tulane, and Navy had the week off. These two teams, when they play each other, they know each other inside and out because they run the same offense and the same defensive schemes. These are like two identical teams. Every year, one's a little better than the other. Yeah, but you know what? It doesn't matter when they play this game. Last year, Army 17-11. The year before that, Army 20-17 in overtime. The year before that, Navy 17-13. These are close games. If you go back in history, the average margin is probably 1 point between these two teams because they are so identical. And when they run the same offenses, yeah, you're right, Joe. You know what? Median scoring, Army 35 points a game and Navy 34 points a game. But why don't they get that when they play each other? Because they play so methodical. There's so less plays in the games between these two, and they know exactly what the other is going to run. Every single play, they know what's going to be run. So they're able to stop it. The defenses see it every day in practice for 4 months in a row. So they know, and they can stop it because they know how to stop it. And that's why it's a lower scoring football game. Points are at a premium. I like what I've seen out of Navy. I love the week off. I love the revenge factor. Give me Navy plus the points.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that helps, especially running the gauntlet. Two teams that landed, two service academies that landed in the top 25 at different points this season. Very successful year for both of them. It should be a fun one to watch. CT, I got to ask you, man, before we get to Ohio State, and I have a feeling how you're going to land in this game. But your boy Bill Belichick is now headed to North Carolina to be a college coach. How does that work out, CT?
It's crazy, Joe. I still can't believe it. I would have thought he wanted to go back and coach in the NFL and break the record. We're all dumbfounded here on the radio station I work for here, 98.5. We honestly can't believe it. It's more of a joke. We're all texting each other, and it's just like this can't be real. And not only is he going to go coach there, Joe, he signs a 3-year deal. It's wild.
I still don't. I think maybe it's just a leverage job. He's going to hold that job over somebody in the NFL. The whole thing makes no sense to me unless he's trying to, join a sorority. But that's a whole different thing. CT, tell me about Ohio State and what it is that they're going to do here in this opening round game, knowing Oregon is on deck.
Yeah, Joe. So they didn't get any favors this year scheduling wise. They had to play all their big games and all their home games at noon. There was no night games at the Shoe. And yeah, it's a tough environment to play at the Shoe at noon, Joe, let alone the first ever playoff game for the Buckeyes. 30-degree weather, 8 o'clock Eastern, standalone game for the Buckeyes and Ryan Day. I don't think that's what the doctor ordered for Heupel and company. It's easy to look at the most recent game, right, that the Buckeyes played, which is what most people do, and say, wow, the Buckeyes lost and laid an egg as 21-point favorites to a below-average Michigan team. Well, Joe, I'm here to promise you that you're not going to see the same team you saw that game Thanksgiving Day weekend. This upcoming, or 2 Saturdays from now, they got caught sleepwalking and looking ahead in a rematch to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. And it cost them. And I don't think that's going to happen here. Everybody wants to talk about how the Vols D-line is elite. Well, Ohio State's defensive line is pretty good, too. And I expect them to shut down Sampson and the run game. That's going to force Nico to put the ball in the air there. And I like the way that the D-backs and the corners match up against the Vols wideouts. Ohio State has the best defense in the country, in my opinion. I think they're going to shut them down here. I made the game 10. I expect Ohio State to come out like we saw versus the second half of the Indiana game and the second half of the Penn State team. That's the Ohio State Buckeyes that will show up next Saturday, Joe.
Kenny, that's a playoff game, but when we're talking about regular bowl games like the LA Bowl coming up, pretty important to know who the hell's playing and who's not playing. UNLV and Cal. What do we know here? UNLV's coach is gone. What do we know about who's playing, who's not playing, and who do you like in the game?
Yeah, Joe, that's the most important thing now. Bowl games with the transfer portal, you can have an entire team leave. Now, I have no idea right now if there's going to be players leaving with Barry Odom to go to Purdue or not. But I do know that Malik Haji Williams, the starting quarterback, will be there, and several key members of the defense that are senior grads that can't go anywhere will be there. And this team does have a lot of older players. So I don't see many people leaving with Barry Odom. And I see a team that already once this year had to band together when Matthew Sluka left the team after 3 games. They blew out a Fresno State team, and a pretty good Fresno State team. But they banded together, and they played that way all year. I love their defense. They've been amazing the last couple weeks of the season. They haven't allowed more than 21 points in their last 4 games. I think they're just a better football team than Cal is. I don't know what's going to happen to Cal or if any of their players are going, but and Justin Wilcox may be a hot commodity as well because he's done a good job there. So we'll see. But I like UNLV in this one by a touchdown.
Liking the Rebels here. It is important to know, guys, that just because somebody hits the portal does not mean they're not playing in the game. And that's keep that in mind here as bowl season continues to roll along here. We've got another game here in the college football playoff, CT. We'll hit when we get back here because I find this number fascinating. It's almost as if people are betting this game like they already know what the score is. I can't wait to see your thoughts on Clemson, Texas. And Kenny's got plenty of NFL action coming up in Week 15, including a big one tomorrow night to kick it all off. We got more Game Time Decisions coming up next here on the Grid.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December and we see 7, 8 teams open and none of them want Bill, then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday. We got the band back together here. The Wizard, Kenny White in the house, along with our good friend CT Betts, Chris Thurston. All right, we got NFL Week 15, a great one starting tomorrow. Before we do that, CT, Clemson playing with house money. Dabo with absolutely nothing to lose. And people who love Texas are acting as if this game shouldn't even be played. Plus 11 here, man. What are you thinking?
They are, Joe, and I think this is way too high. I was on Texas last week. I felt like I was on the right side the majority of the game. But Sark, well, he Sarked. That's for sure. I don't think it helped that yours is clearly nowhere near 100%. I think he needs to make the move over to Arch Manning, and if he doesn't, I really like Clemson a lot in this game. Cade played the best game I've ever seen him play. He was absolutely dominant, didn't make mistakes. He stayed calm. He was really impressive. The wideouts, they stepped up big time, especially Wesco and Williams. They were unbelievable. That was really nice to see as a Tigers backer last week. A little concerning, though, that Phil Maffa, the running back, Joe, for Clemson, his shoulder is clearly still banged up. And then the backup, Haynes, he got hurt himself. He's definitely out next week. I would really like confirmation that Maffa is going to go. I can't imagine that he doesn't. He's going to tough it out because they're going to need to have a run game for Texas. They're not going to be able to just keep it in the air to beat them. But as good as Texas D is, Joe, Clemson isn't a slouch on that side of the ball. And the good news for the Clemson D is that Lenore Sellers for South Carolina isn't going to be pulling the trigger for Texas. Yep. So I lean the Tigers here. I think this is too many.
Too many backing the Tigers at Clemson with nothing to lose. All right, speaking of getting better, Kenny, tomorrow night, 49ers, Rams, battle for the NFC West. Are we going to see what we just saw from the 49ers? Because that looked a lot closer to the team that we thought we were going to get this year.
Yeah, I sure hope so, Joe. I was really hoping to get Trent Williams back because he's such a key part of that offensive line. And when he's in, they win 80% of the time. When he's out, they win 40% of the time. So he is a big difference maker, and he has been ruled out. So that's a negative for me there. But I still have the 49ers a 5.5-point favorite here. I laid 2.5 yesterday, hoping Williams would play. The line is up to 3, but I do see a couple of 2.5s creeping back up in the market. Obviously, it's going to be a tough game. Both teams need it badly, but I have the 49ers ranked better defensively by far. There's no question the Rams are the better offensive team right now, but I'm back in the defense. I've got the Rams 29th in the NFL defensively, the 49ers number 14, and that's because of injuries of the 49ers. This was the best team I've ever rated out before a season started, and injuries have completely decimated the 49ers. They're still better than the Rams, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that defense of the Rams is secondary is going to be in for it with Brock Purdy. Kenny, let me go back to you quick because CT likes the side in this one. I have a feeling he agrees with your play here on the Rams and 49ers. But talk to me about the total in the Steelers and the Eagles game, one of the other big games of this Week 15 slate.
Yeah, the Battle of the Keystone State. Both these teams having a great year. Both are playing very well right now. The Eagles on this long winning streak, but they've been very conservative in this winning streak. You know, Hurts is only throwing the ball 24 times a game. I know A.J. Brown's complaining right now that he's not getting the football enough. That's because they don't ever pass. They have Saquon Barkley. They run the football, and their defense has been tremendous this year, as has the Steelers. The Steelers' median score this year, 22 to 15.5. I only made this total 32. I think we've got 2 of the 3 best defenses in the NFL locking horns in this game. And again, very conservative offensively for both teams.
Especially Tomlin on the road there. CT, what do you think? Yeah, you got to love Deebo Samuel also complaining. Won by 25, but he's still complaining he doesn't get the ball. So talk to me about 49ers Rams. Do you agree with Kenny with the 49ers? And who do you like on a side in this Eagles-Steelers game?
Yeah, I agree with Kenny on the Niners. I laid 2.5 yesterday. I still like 3 even money here. I still think they got juice left in him. Purdy, even though he left the game, he's okay, and he was great, 25. The D, like Kenny said, they were fantastic. They held the Bears to 162 total yards. Kittle looked like a man possessed. Also, doesn't hurt at the Rams, Joe. They had to play a full 60-minute battle with the Bills. And the Niners were just in cruise control going into the second half, being up 24-0 here. Niners are going to find a way. Defense will get the job done. And this team's not dead yet. They got a long way to go, Joe, but I like the Niners to get the win in the cover tomorrow at home there.
And you like which side in the Eagles Steelers here? 5.5. You trust the Eagles to get it done?
I do. I know they looked really sloppy last week, and if it wasn't for Leggett dropping that ball, they probably lost that game. Would have lost that game. But I mean, with all that being said, kind of a bad spot for the Gulls, coming off that big win versus the Ravens that they went down 9-0 in. The slow starts have absolutely killed the Eagles, especially the first quarter. And they're going to have to get away from that because we're getting closer to the playoffs, and I think they will be able to. Looks like the Steelers without Pickens here. I like the Birds. The defense has been phenomenal. Hurts and Brown will figure it out here.
And Kenny, there is no way we can sweat out an under in the Bills-Lions. Am I right?
Yeah, no chance, Joe. I think they're the best two offenses in the NFL. Bills 31 points per game on median, and the Lions 29 points. And I that's about, I think, what both teams will get in the 30s in this game. They're continuing both to get better.
Much closer to 60 than to 50. I am with you here. Kenny White, the Wizard, CT Bets, Chris Thurston. Guys, it is going to be a whole lot of fun over the next couple of weeks between college football, put up or shut up time in the NFL, and we look forward to seeing you guys again next Wednesday. Game Time Decisions will be back after this on the Grid.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a challenge. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions as we look to close out this first hour together. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. Getting ready, of course, top of the hour to puck to drop in Buffalo at the KeyBank Center as the Sabres, as a dog, looking to take on the new-look Rangers, who did a little trading and have been sliding, to say the least, there as they traded Trouba, their captain, last week here. They're looking to get things back on track. It has not been a good start to the season for the Rangers, at least not to what their expectations are. Buffalo, though, has had its moments there, but Buffalo, not a bad priced dog here tonight. 6.5 is the total in that one. And then you've got Ottawa taking on the Ducks a little bit later tonight. That one actually 7:30 next hour. So you got Buffalo and the Rangers coming up here in a couple of minutes. And then at the bottom of next hour, we've got Ottawa taking on the Ducks of Anaheim. Also, college basketball here tonight. This is the time of year they call exam week. That means that a lot of universities and a lot of schools are busy taking those midterms, the exams before the holiday vacation. A lot of campuses starting to empty out with kids flying home. So you don't have exactly the same quantity of games like we've had over the last couple of weeks, but you do have some games nonetheless that are looking at here. Notre Dame taking on Dartmouth coming up in Notre Dame. In fact, with Dartmouth, all of a sudden part of that Ivy League team. I mean, Rhode Island was undefeated last night, and they went to Brown, and Brown upended them, winning outright. You got a Notre Dame team, 500 at best right now, taking on another one of these pesky Ivy League teams in Dartmouth. Might 17 points be a little bit too many? You've got Villanova also trying to keep things rolling as they are laying 4 touchdowns against Fairleigh Dickinson University, FDU, also known as. That'll be in the pavilion, I believe, in Villanova. That game, 150.5. You notice any difference here with Villanova games than what we've got in the last couple of years? A lot of threes, not a lot of defense, a lot of high totals is what we've got. That is for sure. Also, you've got another interesting game coming up later with Kentucky coming off of that unbelievable comeback there against the Zags back home at Rupp Arena, taking on Colgate. And Colgate has gone through some changes, but Colgate has got one of the longtime great coaches there in that Ivy League conference. 2-8 on the year. They don't have any big men, not like they did last year. What they do have is a bunch of guys that love to chuck up threes, which is how Colgate has always played. And when the threes weren't falling, they were able to get the ball inside to the big men in the post and keep up with anybody. You would never have seen Colgate getting 30, 31 points against anybody in years past. The problem is they don't have any more big men, and this team can't shoot. If they shoot and they can maintain, they make 34, 35% of their threes tonight, they'll stay within this number. But every time that they have shot less than that from three in a game, they have gotten absolutely mauled. And that is exactly what will happen at Rupp Arena if the threes aren't falling. So keep an eye on that one. Also, 9 o'clock Eastern time tonight. How about BYU taking on Fresno State in a game that this feels like a number way too low from a total perspective here. 156.5 doesn't seem right with a BYU team as well as a Fresno team that has never met a three they didn't like to take. It's going to be raining threes, I believe, in this game, and that one could definitely be 90 wins. And if that's the case, I think we can get in the 160s and get that game up and over the total here. So you got a little college basketball tonight, just a couple of games, of course, in the NHL we told you about. Let's not forget the NBA Cup getting ready to tip off here. The other side of the quarterfinals bracket with the Knicks and the Hawks. And then we've got Golden State and Houston. We'll talk more about that coming up, as well as maybe a look ahead to Week 15 in the NFL. That starts tomorrow night. Come back and join us. Game Time Decisions, another hour next here on The Grid.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on
Right.
Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill, then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome in Game Time Decisions on this Wednesday, hour 2 together. We certainly appreciate you stopping by. I'm Joe Raineri as we're getting ready for a bunch of games happening tonight. College basketball. Looking forward to that Kentucky Colgate game, even though the line is 30. We'll learn a little something about those two teams here tonight. Of course, 2 games in the NHL. No football here tonight as we get ready for the college football playoff, not to mention week number 15 kicks off tomorrow in the NFL with a big battle in the NFC West between the Rams and the 49ers. But the highlight tonight's got to be the NBA Cup here, the quarterfinals with the Knicks and Hawks getting ready to do battle. Then, of course, Golden State and Houston. And we welcome in our good friend Adam Kaufman here. No doubt is looking at this Hawks-Knicks game. And, Adam, they're betting the Knicks like they know what the score is. Are we like what? Like everyone, I've been watching this Hawks team since they got healthy, and this is a different team than what they were the first couple of weeks of the season. Should the Knicks be laying this number right now?
So well, a couple things. One, you say there's no football tonight. True, no games, but we do have the biggest football story of the freaking year.
Yes.
With Bill Belichick going to the college ranks to coach North Carolina. I am going to be thinking about this at every moment of the day, even while I am talking to you about this Emirates NBA Cup for the people around that still care about this thing. But look, there are ways to bet it. And it's not a strong play with conviction, but I do lean toward New York with the points. I have a small play on it myself. Got it at 6.5. I've seen it climb to 7.5. I just think that there are a couple of different facets to this. One, on the Knicks side of things, it's just a better team. You know, not to sort of disrespect some of the good young talent that is all going to be available for this game on the Atlanta side. It felt like there were a million players that were questionable, but everyone is going to be available for this one. It has the feel, obviously, of a playoff game for the teams, the players that do care about that trip to Vegas and playing in the semifinals and chasing the prize money, obviously. So it was fun to watch yesterday, the couple of games, and seeing players sort of transport us to April, May, June here in early December. And that's what the whole idea of this competition is about. So credit Adam Silver for bringing some of that intensity to the midseason. But Brunson obviously has been largely pretty consistent. Towns has gone off in this matchup. It's why, one of my favorite plays tonight, whether you want to play the over on his points, the over on his rebounds, attack the points rebounds combo, that line is sitting sub 40. I looked at it earlier. It's sitting at 39.5 now. It was 37.5 or 38.5 when I invested in it. He, according to some of the projections that I have looked at, 43. I mean, it clears it by a good amount. We have a big total, obviously, in this game at 237.5. So we're expecting a pace-up spot, which is what, the Hawks, who are kind of Pacers-like from last year, the Hawks are very much used to this, these high-flying, high-scoring games. The Knicks are going to have to move, obviously, at a quicker tempo. And you think about the last time these two teams matched up, Karl-Anthony Towns went for in the mid-30s in points alone and also had, I think, 16 rebounds. So he soared past this line, obviously, that points rebound getting in at sub 40, whether it's the pick and roll advantage. You got one of the best, if not the best, pick and roll combo, Towns and Brunson, in the entire NBA against perhaps the worst pick and roll defense from the Atlanta Hawks on the other side. I think we're going to get a load of points. I think Towns is going to be a gigantic part of it. I have seen people in the betting space laddering up his points 30, 35, 40. The expectation is that the star of this game is going to be Cat here in this one, and that tells me put your money on the Knicks, whether money line parlay situation or obviously just, involving them with a short lean to the spread, because I think it's, even as someone who got hooked on the Bucks yesterday, and that was unfortunate, I still think the Knicks are the way to lean here in this one.
Yeah, it's amazing the lack of defense we're getting from a Thibodeau team here, but they are perfectly capable of dropping 125 points a night or more and beating anybody here, and they may just have to do that tonight against Atlanta. How is Karl-Anthony Towns not getting 15 rebounds in this game? Anybody? I mean,
that's the thing. And he's just going to be so involved in the middle. Like I pulled something up real quick. So previous meeting I mentioned, obviously mid-30s points, the 16 rebounds. Last two centers against Atlanta, so just the last couple of games pre-Cup game here, have gone for 38 and 48 points respectively. Towns is going to feast in this one in the middle of the paint. And like you said, it's why, again, a lot of people have been investing in under 9.5 rebounds for Clint Capella. Bet it down to 8.5, because the assumption is that it's just going to be Towns gobbling up all these boards. What I will say on the Hawks side of things, and this is a little bit narrative street, you're going to have to ride with me, take that stroll with me on this one if you want to. Trae Young, I know he is a facilitator first and foremost, and he's dishing out assists like you read about. You don't typically attack his points, but in 20 career games at Madison Square Garden, he has averaged about 26 points per game. His points line in this one is only 20.5. So I'm not saying I'd go to town on it. In fact, I think he has, missed that line. He even missed this line, the 20.5, in something like 3 out of 5, 4 out of the last 5 trips there. So this is absolutely something that has been inflated by, multiple 40-point games. And there are, just to give you a not so much a trend, but a quick stat for you. Young is one of 5 active NBA players, opponents of the Knicks, obviously, at Madison Square Garden, to have multiple 40-point games in that building. KD, LeBron, AD, and ironically enough, Cam Thomas also on that list. I guess just loves the New York rivalry. But, Trae Young steps up in that building. I'm looking for him to do so again. I have a small play on the over on his points, and I think that's how, if it happens, the Hawks find a way to keep this game close.
Yeah, and his points and assists in this one, it should be well above what that number is for both of them. But listen, I think the next game, though, with the Rockets at home welcoming in Golden State, we've got 2 of the top 3 defensive efficient teams in the NBA going at it. It feels like points are going to be hard to come by in this one, but how are you looking to play it? Are the Rockets last year's Pacers? Is that what we got here?
It's a good question. I don't have a good feel for this game. I really don't. The Rockets are, they're young, they're kind of plucky, they're well coached under Udoka, obviously, who doesn't take any crap from anybody. We've seen that in his head coaching career after the long journeyman stint as an assistant. The Rockets have lost 15 straight against the Warriors, but they're also 9-3 at home this year. The Warriors have been up and down, as we know. I mean, more up than down. They have a good record. Somehow they just keep figuring it out. You lose Klay Thompson. Steph has not entirely been himself, and yet just they find a way to win a lot of these games, or at the very least hang close. That's why we have such a tight spread tonight. I'd be inclined to take the over on the points. Again, not a strong feeling on that. And I probably would invest in the Rockets on the money line in this one. I just think that ultimately they're primed to end that streak. That said, though, when it comes to props, Steph Curry can pick this up on the other side if you want. But looking over on his PRA, he has cleared this line in the last 8 meetings that he has faced the Rockets, sitting at 35.5. He's also averaging about 38-39 PRA in cup play.
Ooh, all right. PRA there for Steph. Never a bad look. We'll talk more about the NBA Cup when Game Time Decisions continues on the Grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Adam Kaufman stepping in again for another segment with us here, Adam. And we're talking about the Golden State and the Houston game coming up. The winner of this game gets to head out west and take on OKC, who dispatched Dallas last night rather easily here. And, of course, the Knicks and Atlanta winner is taking on the Bucks. And we were just looking at some of these future odds for this NBA Cup, trying to think, all right, OKC is your favorite, and that makes sense. But, last year we saw the Lakers and we saw the Indiana Pacers in that finals there. I mean, who's the dark horse here? Houston at 7-1. I mean, we're talking 21-1 for the Atlanta Hawks, who, if they beat the Knicks, are probably going to be a dog against the Milwaukee Bucks, even though they just beat them a little over a week ago here. I think it's fascinating. I don't know that I'm penciling Oklahoma City in for everything here. What are you thinking?
I think we were just talking about this during the break. You need to kind of get to the root of motivational angles and which teams really care about winning this thing. Like LeBron and AD, and mostly LeBron, the Lakers, they cared about winning the in-season tournament last year and taking that first one and hoisting that banner, and LeBron adding it to his resume of championships, even though it is an in-season championship. I think that stuff matters. Some organizations or some players, it's just not that important. Now, an organization like the Thunder that has never won anything, now I know that could very well change this year. They're an excellent team, and a lot of people have them representing the Western Conference and are right there in the title odds, obviously, and we're coming into the year. This is kind of an appetizer. This is like, let's try and win the in-season championship and celebrate that one. Then let's go get the real thing at the end of the year. So I think they look at it as almost an audition, for lack of a better word. Like these are trial games for playoff-like mentality. And I know they had a okay run last year, knocked out by the Mavericks, didn't go as far as, I'm sure they had hoped to go. But I think that Dagnall and company, they're taking this thing pretty seriously. And Giannis, I know he's won a real championship. He's got a ring. That being said, these Bucks under Doc Rivers and with Damian Lillard, they're still... Last year was kind of a mess. This year started off as a disaster, and now they've been super hot over the last few weeks. And I think they're just out to sort of prove themselves still to the league and show that, hey, we can take this thing. We're going to be there at the end of the year, in that conversation with Boston or New York or whoever it is. Like, take us seriously now. Giannis, listening to him post-game after that game last night, sounds like a guy that actually is hell-bent on winning this thing. But sure, there's no value in those numbers. I get it. So if you want to look at who is something of a dark horse, or where is the value? Of course, the longest odds, like you said, come from the Hawks, because most people think they're going to lose to the Knicks tonight. So if they should happen to survive, then can they knock off the Bucks, and then boom, like you're there. So of course, 21-1, you can make a case for that with a short runway to it. I would rather probably invest in the Rockets, just because I do think they're going to win tonight. And, they are a hard team to play against, a physical, kind of Knicks-like in that they're, very mentally strong-willed out there on the floor. I think that they're going to be a tough out. So provided they do win tonight and obviously move on to face the Thunder, they could knock them off. Then all of a sudden you're, again, in the championship round there in Vegas, and that's at 7-1. So I don't quite need to reach for the Hawks. I think at 7-1, Houston's a good bet.
Yeah, and listen, they're not going to be a favorite in any game. They're not going to be a favorite against OKC. They would not be the favorite in the final. So a lot of ways you can roll them over if you really do like them in these final couple of games on their way to a championship. Speaking of championship, we finally got a little championship caliber football out of the 49ers last week against the Bears. Rams come in hot. Do they have enough left in the tank to make one final push at this thing tomorrow night?
Well, I was going to say, we got it out of the Rams, too. I mean, I know the defense wasn't as sharp, but the offense was certainly clicking. I am excited for this game. It's a very important one as it comes to trying to reach the playoffs and, winning that NFC West, which is wide open. I still really don't believe it's going to be Seattle. And I've been saying for weeks it wasn't going to be Arizona, so I'm glad they've come back down to earth. Obviously, the odds would tell you, use your eyes. Like the Niners, it's not going to happen for them. I don't think it's impossible, and this would probably be Seattle more so than it would be, San Francisco, obviously. But it's not completely out of the realm of possibility the two teams in that division do make the playoffs, with one being a wild card. But I think the Rams, especially, obviously, if they can win this game after knocking off the Bills, can go on a little bit of a run here. The defense is nothing special, I know, but that offense is about as good as you will find in the NFL when healthy. And the reason that the record for LA is what it is because there have been so many injuries this year, and Cooper Kupp missed time, Puka Nacua missed time, and Stafford wasn't the same guy without those guys. And, Kyron Williams went off in their absence, but, now he fits into obviously a still dominant running back role, but a higher overall octane offense that, as we know, as we see week after week, can put up just boatloads of points. Now, I've seen and heard people make the case for the Niners maybe being in a better spot this week just because, in terms of a slight rest advantage. Yes, of course, they, both just played over the weekend, but the Niners, really didn't have to play in the fourth quarter. Their starters didn't have to go for it, whereas it had to absolutely come down to the final moments in that Rams and Bills. There was no relenting at all in that one. So there's a little bit of maybe emotional and physical fatigue for LA coming out of that game. I still think that I'd invest in the Rams. I'd take the Rams to the points. I'd sprinkle the money line. I think that this is a motivated team, a very well coached team under Sean McVay, and a Niners team on the other side that just has way too many injuries and guys that are playing through stuff to truly keep competing at a high level. They got a light opponent last time out.
Yeah, it's a battle for the NFC West, and we're getting it to start off Week 15. So, again, put up or shut up time this week for a lot of teams who have no more room for error, and this should be a fun one. I'm with you. I'm looking very forward to it, Adam, as they get ready to kick off the week. Adam, we always appreciate it, man. Enjoy the games, game time decisions, more NFL next here on the Grid.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all. Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip. You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and we're off and running in the first quarterfinal game here of the NBA Cup. We watched a couple of good games last night. We saw the Milwaukee Bucks advance, taking down the Orlando Magic, who not only had lost their best player earlier in the month, but lost the player that stepped up for him and Franz Wagner. And they still took the Milwaukee Bucks to the very end there. Came up a little bit short, but Milwaukee is awaiting the winner of this Knicks-Hawks game. And if the Hawks don't figure it out, it will be the Knicks taking on the Milwaukee Bucks out west here. They are up 13-4, it looks like, here early on, as the Knicks have blitzed the Hawks pretty much. Nothing slow-paced about this game, so the over might very well not be a bad look if we can get into it in game. We'll let you know if we have something along those lines. We'll let you know what the number is. There might be a good opportunity. It closed 237. I'm thinking if this thing gets anywhere near the high 220, 228, 227, I think it's absolutely worth a bet to go up and over. The Warriors and the Rockets are going to be the game coming up. After that one in Houston, as the upstart Rockets and the Warriors, and I'll say it again, a 222.5. I'm not sure where the points are coming. We're talking about two of the better, top three, in fact, defensive efficient teams in the NBA. So I'm not quite sure where the points are coming from in that one. I am on the under with the Warriors and the Rockets. That is a game that feels like first one to 110 wins. And I think that's what you're going to need in order to win that game. And their prize for winning between the Rockets and OKC will be, the OKC Thunder await as they handled Doncic and company there in Dallas last night. OKC rolling. Hartenstein with the team now, finally healthy enough. They lose Chet Holmgren. They gain Hartenstein, and just like that, OKC looks like a absolute machine. Now, whether that means they're going to run the table in this NBA Cup, that remains to be seen. But I can tell you this, they are the betting favorites to win this NBA Cup at a little less, plus 170, plus 165, somewhere in that ballpark. The Milwaukee Bucks at plus 330. And we just talked to Adam Kaufman, and anybody that saw the interview after the game last night with Giannis, Giannis did not like losing in the finals, the semifinals last year against the Indiana Pacers. It is something, all of them on a very experienced team in Milwaukee, they are they had absolutely bought in. Now, keep in mind, too, Milwaukee Bucks have had a rough start to the season here. They would love nothing more than to kind of roll into this NBA Cup, win that title, and then begin, of course, what we all know is the start of the NBA season is really Christmas. But the Milwaukee Bucks would love to use this as a stepping off point for the rest of the season, and an NBA Cup championship would go a long way in that. But there's a lot of basketball still to go here. Don't forget these regular season, these all count towards the regular season win totals. The only game that doesn't count is the championship game, which, of course, after tonight, we'll know what those four teams that remain and what it might look like. But keep in mind, you got some big dogs here with the Atlanta Hawks and the Houston Rockets, who I do not see if they any of them are victorious tonight. I don't see either of those teams being a favorite for anybody. So keep that in mind as we get ready for what should be a pretty fun semifinal and finals here to the NBA Cup. You know, we scream and yell and we moan about how nobody wants this. But can we tell you, when you get to this point, You're seeing a lot of effort out of Atlanta and the Knicks right now, and you will no doubt see a ton of effort here tonight by Steph Curry and company against Houston. Nobody wants to not get to Vegas. They want to go to Vegas and play a couple of more games. So should be a fun one here. 2 games in the NHL tonight. We'll get you updated on those. And the Johnnies, not looking good against Bryant and those 21.5 points they were laying. Rick Pitino looks like he's aged 10 years, which would make him, not young. We'll have more Game Time Decisions when we get back here on the Grid.
actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on
Right.
Texas?
I gave them a challenge. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill, then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday now, December the 11th. Tick tock, the end of 2024 is almost upon us, but not before we have a great slate of Week 15 games in the NFL to go over, and who better than our good friend Brady Cannon, who's stepping in. And Brady, before we dive into a couple of these games, your boy, Scotty Scheffler, we laughed at him last week at the Hero World Challenge. We're going in. Are you kidding me? How is he not minus $1 million in all of these tournaments here? But somehow it might have been looking like there was a door open in that Hero World Challenge. But what happened? It didn't ultimately matter at the end, did it?
No, it was kind of like off one day and on the next. He was a little bit sluggish on Thursday, and then he lit it up on Friday, and then a little bit sluggish again on Saturday, and absolutely just steamrolled the field on Sunday. I mean, he went into the day down by a shot, yet he was still the favorite. I was holding that pre-tournament ticket at plus 225. I was a little bit nervous. But I still felt, he was going to get it done. But then I tell you, I mean, he got to about the 8th or 9th hole and it was over. I think he had a 3-shot lead going into the back 9. And, pretty soon he had a 4 or 5-shot lead. He ends up winning by 6. I mean, people are talking Justin Thomas and Tom Kim. You got to hand it to him. He shoots like 62 or something like that on Saturday. And you figure he's going to, fall off, and followed it right up with another good round. And, those guys are really good buddies, Scotty and Tom. And they've had some battles down the stretch before. So that was impressive to see out of Tom Kim. Maybe that's a sign of things to come this season. And you got to hand it to JT, too. He did really well at the Zozo a month ago. I mean, he's a guy that you like to see in form. He's good for the tour. But Scotty, man, the guy's unflappable. And I think I don't know what your impression is, Joe, but I think he's got like a Jordan, Gretzky, Tiger type competitiveness. I mean, don't get in his way. He is going to crush you.
I looked so, the question was whether or not after the birth of his child, he took some time away from the game after winning everything. And you're going, he breathes, and then he comes out there against, a small field of guys that all are gunning for him because they all want to take him down. And then ultimately he did what Tiger did for so many years. He just buried them on the back nine, and that was all she wrote. So looking forward to him and the start of the PGA Tour season coming up in January out in Hawaii. I think it's going to be fun to watch. How much better does he get, and can anybody go and get him? We'll know soon enough here in a month, but we do have some games coming up this week, and a game of the week here in the NFL, Brady, with the Steelers and the Eagles. And the Eagles, laying now 5.5. Is that a big ask for this team against a Mike Tomlin Steelers team?
I think it's a little too many, Joe. I think these teams are closer than that spread would indicate. Personally, myself, I made it 2, and then when I run all the stats, I come out to 3.5. I think 3.5. I could see 4 maybe, but 3.5 to me feels like. And I mean, why wouldn't you be taking Mike Tomlin getting that hook 3 plus a half? 3 and a hook. Tomlin is a dog in a rivalry type situation. I would say Philadelphia is a slightly better team. I mean, the running game's fantastic. They're really good at defending the pass. But I think both teams have been improving. And it looks like, I mean, maybe we got a crash course for a Super Bowl matchup here, quite honestly. They say you want to be peaking in December. And it looks like maybe both of these teams are. I just don't see Philadelphia winning this one by 6 or 7 points. I think you get a tight one here.
Yeah, and Tomlin has always been good as a road underdog against better teams. If this was against the Raiders, I might be worried. But they usually show up and show out against the better teams. So Eagles right now laying a big number.
I got another note for you that I had forgotten about here. And this is something that stuck out at me very early in the week. And you probably know our friend Chris Andrews, who's the race and sportsbook director at the South Point here in Las Vegas. I really respect Chris's opinion, but especially when it comes to Pittsburgh. That's where he's from. He's a big Steeler fan. And I noticed on Monday when these lines came out, everybody was at 5 or 5.5, and Chris was at 4.5. It looked to me like he was intentionally staying below the market because I think he likes this. He felt that was too many points. I think he's more like me. He thinks, the Steelers should be getting 3.5, maybe 4 at the most. But he felt, according to what I was looking at the screen, it told me Chris Andrews thought 5 or 5.5 was too much, and I'm happy to be on board with him when it comes to the Steelers.
Yeah, it feels like the total's a little high too at 42.5 with those two defenses. That should be a great game. That one, of course, going to be in the late window on Sunday. The Dolphins taking on the Texans here. Texans coming off a much-needed bye. Welcoming in Miami, who I don't like that defense. They need to figure some things out there. But Tua and company, listen, I mean, he completes 75% of his passes, Brady. What else do you want the guy to do here? It's a field goal. Who do you trust, the home favorite or the road dog here?
Well, I agree with you. Miami's defense is not good in defending the run. And if Joe Mixon can get going, it could be a long day. But that offense, I mean, obviously we know Tua coming back is going to make a difference versus Skylar Thompson and whoever else, Tyler Huntley, whoever else they were throwing out there. But it's been an exponentially, ascension here offensively for the Dolphins. They still, it amazes me, they still can't get Achane going and their running game really clicking, but their offense is so much better, really better than it was, when Tua was in there, even before he was hurt. So I think this game is way closer to a pick 'em. The Texans have underachieved and disappointed all season long. The Dolphins are the team on the rise. The Texans, I know they're getting healthier coming out of that bye week. We'll see if that's a good thing for them or not. I just think, again, I made the game pick 'em. When I run all the stats, it comes right to about 3. So maybe the number's correct. But I just think I think what we saw before the Texans headed into the bye and what we see out of Miami now is two teams headed in different directions.
Yeah, it's that sophomore slump there for CJ Stroud is alive and well here. And, sometimes they say I'd rather be lucky than good, Brady. So what are the Chiefs?
Gosh, I tell you, super lucky. Oh my goodness. But I tell you, it's very rarely. I was on the Chargers last week. I think I was on the Raiders the week before. I mean, I've bet against them a few times this season successfully. I think I might be on the Chiefs this week, Joe.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, I mean, and laying 4 seemed cheap to me. I made the number 7, and when I ran all my numbers, I come to 7. It feels like we're finally, maybe, I mean, really? Are we possibly getting a bargain on the Chiefs? Maybe everybody is starting to realize that this team is a little bit smoke and mirrors, but again, the Browns are not very good at all. And the Chiefs at a 4, I know they're a road favorite. That's, always risky business. But again, I think it should be a full touchdown of 7. I haven't bet it. I'm probably going to go the route of money line parlay here, Joe. And I'm not sure who the dance partner is going to be just yet. But I think that's if I don't bet them straight, and lay the 4, I'll definitely have them on a money line parlay ticket.
Yeah, I just don't know what to make of them because at some point that pendulum is going to swing the other way, Brady. Right?
Yeah.
You can't. They haven't lost a one-score game, Brady. You can't keep that. You can't keep that up at some point. And if I'm Kansas City, I want to lose that game now. I don't want to lose that game in December. So it is such a weird season for the Kansas City Chiefs, but they might run it all away. Brady, we appreciate it as always, man.
Please
enjoy the
Kansas
game.
City.
Don't, please don't.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we got a NBA Cup game underway right now with the Knicks and Atlanta Hawks, with the winner getting ready to head out west in the semifinal against the Milwaukee Bucks. Right now, a 28-22 game as the Knicks are up in front right now at the end of that first quarter. This one is at the Garden. We're awaiting, of course, Rockets, Warriors. That game tipping off at 9:30 here tonight. And the guy that will be getting you guys all ready for the Knicks, Hawks, as well as Warriors, Rockets, Scotty Wetzel stepping in-game live coming up here at the top of the hour. And what do you think of that game coming up tonight between Houston and Golden State, Scotty? Is Houston last year's Indiana Pacers, the upstart, the young team that, goes all the way to the NBA Cup Finals but loses to the more experienced Lakers team? Does it feel like we're getting a repeat of that?
Yeah, we might, Joe. And not only this year, really, Houston finished up last season, but the last month and a half, they were actually playing really good ball. So it's not really, they didn't fall apart like the last week or two, but otherwise they were actually playing halfway decent. So I don't know, this seems one-sided to me, and I think the line is reflecting that. It's up to 2.5 now. And when I looked at it originally, Houston was favored by 1, maybe 1.5, but again, it's up to 2.5. And I just can't make a case for Golden State here, Joe. These games don't count now. All these other games in this cup stuff all count it in the regular part of your 82-game schedule. These games don't. So, I mean, what is Golden State playing for? Steph Curry's got 5,000 championships and Draymond, right? I mean, do they really need one of these dopey cup championships to play extra games? They're a veteran team. I just don't see the motivation. I got a Rockets team that's 8-1 straight up and against the spread. Their last 9 home games, they're one of the best spread teams in the NBA. You said it, the Cinderella story. Meanwhile, Golden State's been playing awful basketball over the last 2.5 weeks or so. I don't know. It seems too easy, but give me Houston laying to 2.5 even. I'd even go up to 3 to tell you the truth. I don't think this is going to be a close game. I just don't see a reason why Golden State would really come to play tonight. And I think for a young Houston team, winning the Cup championship does mean a little something, I think. So give me the Rockets tonight, laying to 2.5. And I might, if you're going to go Rockets, you might as well go with Jalen Green, their best player, over 19.5 points. That's his average, so they're not giving you any bargain there, but he's hit that 3 of his last 5 times, last 5 games. So let's go over with the Jalen Green guy, and hopefully, he carries them to the win.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Even the points, rebounds, and assists, not a bad look for him. Right. I just don't. I mean, these are 2 of the better defensive teams, teams that actually play defense in the NBA, Scotty. I just don't know how we're getting over 222.5 in this one either.
Yeah, the only thing I would think of is Joe, is if they don't come motivated to play Golden State. That would be the only thing, because then you could see a 120, 105 blowout, or 125, 120, something along those lines. But, if you believe at least Golden State's going to show up, then yeah, that 222. And we've kind of been leaning towards the under in some of these Cup quarterfinal games as well. Not a bad 1-1 last night, but yeah, you had just a slew of scoring in the fourth quarter of that Orlando game. Otherwise, that would have gone under. That was on a well under pace. So, yeah, maybe the under as well, the 222. Because Houston can't play good defense, clearly.
What can we get on the ice tonight? The Rangers are up 1-0 over the Sabres, and it looks like the Senators didn't waste any time. 1-0 over the Ducks here, Scotty, which might be good for your total or not good for your total.
Well, it is and it isn't. I will tell you, first of all, we only have 2 games, 2 NBA games, right, 2 hockey games, and just a handful of college basketball games tonight. I mean, this Cup championship, God bless them, but it's just ruining our schedules here. It's just like, why isn't the NHL picking up the slack here, right? I mean, come on, you got 2 open dates last night and tonight. Last night we had a few hockey games, and tonight we got nothing. So I did like the under, and I still do. But I've seen in a lot of books it's dropped to 5.5, and now it's 1-0 already. So I'm going to be cheating here. But if it's 5.5, I would have gone over. If it's 6.5, I would have gone under. Ducks 5 straight unders on the road. Series is 6-1 under their last 7 meetings, so it does spell under, which is why it dropped to 5.5 in some circles. You got the 1-0 lead already, but that's that's okay. I'll still take the under. You got 6.5 now on most books, plus money, at least for FanDuel anyway, plus 114. So that's the original 6.5 that I saw this afternoon. You're 4 minutes in, 3.5 minutes in. I would take that under.
We have, and you mentioned it, it is exam week here in colleges. So, you got the holiday vacation coming up. Schools are doing all the exams. So we don't have as many college games, but I'm looking at some of these numbers, and a few of them, St. John's is up 6 right now. They were laying 21.5 points against Bryant, which is a pretty good mid-major. And then this Kentucky game is the most absurd thing. I mean, they're laying over 30 points against Colgate, who this isn't one of the better Colgate teams that they've had. But my goodness, Scotty, 30.5 points, 31 points. What are we doing here with this Kentucky game?
Yeah. Let me start with the St. John's one first, Joe. We're going to use a couple of systems for both St. John's and Kentucky. Two of the better favorite, betting systems, right? St. John's, all right? First of all, who's Bryant, right? Who knows? Where do they play? What's their nickname? Who's their coach? Who knows, right? But they're a mid-major. You said they're halfway decent. They're at least 6-5 this year. But it's not a pro-Bryant play. It's an anti-St. John's play. Why? What did St. John's do? Last Saturday, they had the Louis Carnesecca game. I mean, you got Rick Pitino basically in tears after the game saying, thank goodness we won. I would have never been able to live with myself had we lost. I mean, you talk about a major, major letdown spot. This is it, right? Now you can still get the 15.5, but, they relayed, as you said, over 20 points. I don't know if Bryant's going to win, but I think they're going to be in this game till the very end. And then with Louisville, or with Kentucky, they're playing Louisville next game. So do you think they're really worried about Colgate tonight? I'm sure they win, but are they going to beat the snot out of them, Joe? Probably not. Let me grab the 32 for them.
I can't be laying 30.5 points during Christmas week here. It makes no sense to me at all. But the good news is you get to cover it coming up. In-game live, straight ahead. Scotty's your man. We'll wrap it up next here on the Grid.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in GameTime Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we get ready to wrap up this edition in-game live with Scotty Wetzel, Dave Sharapan, and the crew. They will get you ready as the Knicks and Atlanta Hawks are in a battle right now at the Garden. 35-32, the Knicks are on top here. In-game number looking at about 8.5, 222.5 is that total. as the Knicks just can't seem to pull away from Atlanta, who keeps making pretty big shots in this game. Plenty of time to go. 7 minutes to go in the second quarter. Winner of this game goes to Vegas to play the Milwaukee Bucks. And, of course, they'll also have the Rockets and Warriors coming up in Game 2 of the quarterfinals tonight, with the Rockets laying 2.5 right now over the Warriors. The Warriors and Steph Curry and Draymond Green, the old guard, taking on the upstart Houston Rockets, who have been playing great basketball so far this season. Not to mention great basketball, also pretty good defensive basketball. Both those teams, 2 of the top 3 defensive efficient teams in the NBA here. I think points are going to be hard to come by in that one there. If you're just joining us, though, you might have missed the news that we had a big college football announcement. It had nothing to do with the college football playoffs. Playoffs? No, it had to do with a new head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. That would be Bill Belichick, who has agreed to become the North Carolina football head coach. Now, and looking for something officials, but mostly it's being reported across the board that Belichick, at 72 years old, 3 years, it looks like, somewhere in the $30-35 million range, basically going to make double what Mac Brown, who, by the way, retired at 73 years old. Belichick, just about 6 months younger than Mac Brown here. But boy, oh boy, Bill Belichick, 6 championships with one Tom Brady, you may recall, also chasing the all-time record for most wins. In fact, 14 wins away from Don Shula for the NFL career record for head coaches. But it looks like he's more than happy to take a job in the college ranks. And again, he has not been a college football coach. He has always been an NFL guy. His father was definitely a college guy, but not good old not Coach Belichick. Instead, he is going to try and rebuild a football program in Chapel Hill. And it looks like he's going to be taking his younger son there, Steven, who was and is one of the upcoming defensive-minded coaches in the college game. He was with Washington this year. He was the defensive coordinator there. Washington had a great defense this year, and it looks like he will, in all likelihood, get the job as either a defensive coordinator or some high-level position with Belichick's staff here. And then the thought is that maybe, just maybe, Belichick took this job with the idea that get this program up and running and then hand it off to his son, Steven. So, but this is breaking news, and I've got a lot of people, certainly in Boston and in the NFL, kind of scratching their head going, what is this all about here? So we'll have to see how this works out. But I will say that Belichick did go on a show recently, and he was asked on the Pat McAfee show, in fact, what is it like? What would a Bill Belichick run college team, a college program, what would that look like? And Belichick said that the college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for players that had the ability to play in the NFL. He said it would be a professional program, training, nutrition, scheme, coaching, techniques that would transfer to the NFL. So that's Belichick's in when it comes to recruiting, is that if you have any aspirations of going to the NFL, Belichick is basically selling you on the fact that you come here, forget about it's North Carolina. It's about how good can we get you ready for the NFL? It's a fascinating development. We'll have more on it as In Game Live is straight ahead here on the Grid. Enjoy tonight.
actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are